Welcome Death Lords to another 101 guide video. Today I'll be teaching you how to play Unholy Death Knight in PvP in Dragonflight Season 4. In this video, in this guide, I will cover the best talents and build for Unholy Death Knights for Season 4. I'll show you the best stats for Unholy Death Knights, what you should go for. I'll show you how to do the normal rotation as an Unholy Death Knight in PvP. And of course, I'll show you how to do the burst rotation as Unholy Death Knight in PvP as well. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright Death Lords, here you can see the talents for Season 4, which in my opinion are the best talents to use in this season, Season 4. The things you want to go for now are Runic Attenuation. This will make sure to give you a good stream of Runic Power, which will make sure that you can cast more Death Calls. And if you can spam it more and more, that increases your DPS by a lot. A-Bomb Limb, but it's really important if you want to burst, and especially if you want an AoE burst. Make sure whenever you have your goes, you can just grab everyone to your location. And together with a talent on the right side, you'll see why this is very useful. Can go for what I did is for Unholy Bond. So that means like the healing you get from this effect is increased by 20% when it triggers. And also the amount of strength you gain from it. For example, if you go for the Crusader Runeforge, it will also increase the strength you gain by 20%. Overall, a really nice damage increase when your Runeforge procs. Death's Echo is a really important one because make sure you get another charge of Death's Advance, Death and DK, and Death Grip. That just brings so much utility. Unholy Ground makes sure whenever you stand in your Death and DK, or your Defile, if you talent it, which I'll show you later, you gain 5% haste, and hasting for Death Knights is a really important stat. Another thing you really have to get is Asphyxiate, your personal stun, Grip of the Dead. Every time when you cast Death and DK, it reduces the movement speed of enemies within its area by 90%, decaying by 10% every second. So this will make sure, like when you cast your Defile, Death and DK, people that are in it are really massively slowed. It can help you just to align people, to group people up together with A-Bomb Limb. But this makes sure like you're more likely to get those huge AoE bursts off. It's also really nice when you just to control, just have an extra interrupt on someone who's casting a spell on you. You can interrupt them with this one. But some people also take this Ref Walk. You can just get rid of roots effects on you, so you can just escape, increase your mobility as well. You can do if you want to go for a little bit more mobility and little less damage maybe. You can drop 1 point of Unholy Bond, put it into Ref Walk, and there you go. Also really good. But if you don't want to sacrifice on the damage, what you also can do, Unholy Bond, and you can swap out this one, which will reduce your damage taken by 50% when you have Lichborn active. But you can sacrifice this one, also put it into Wrathwalk if you would like to. I don't think I would do that. What you can also do if you want some really tankiness in general, not only when you have Lichborn active, you can even put it into Permafrost. Every time when you auto attack, 40% of the damage you deal with your auto attack will be turned into an absorb shield on you. But because we take the talent Gloom Ward, absorbs are 15% more effective on you. That also makes sure your Permafrost is also 15% more effective. And also your anti-magic barrier is 15% more effective, and any other healing shields that are put on you by a Discipline Priest, for example. So with going with Permafrost overall in a large fight or long fight, this will add a nice amount of damage absorption. This one makes you really tanky in general. I really like it. But most people, I have to say, will not go with Permafrost. They'll take this point and either drop it into Unholy Endurance or into Wrathwalk. I would say, like, if you suspect to be slowed a lot, go for Wrathwalk instead of Unholy Endurance. If you suspect heavy damage, maybe like physical damage where we're quite weak against, you can spend it into Unholy Endurance. And if you then still want your Wrathwalk, you can sacrifice 1 point of Unholy Bond and put it in there. Lots of things you can do here, depending on what you're facing against. Personally, I prefer this build right here. It's really universal. And in most scenarios, it's really good. Season 3 we went down here with Rotten Touch, Harbinger's Doom and Reaping. We're not doing that now in this season, in Season 4. What I see a lot of high-ranked arena players use is the build right here. I've tried it out myself too, and it is really effective too. You give up a little bit of execute damage at the end, so you're not as likely to get killing blows. Now you're really dependent on getting killing blows by like more minor damaging effects. Plaguebringer increases the tick rate of your diseases to make sure that they'll tick twice as fast for 10 seconds whenever you have used Scourge Strike. This is a buff that is on you. It's a buff on you. So if you Scourge Strike one target and you switch to another one, that target that you switch to will also have the effect the diseases tick twice as fast on them for 10 seconds. When playing Plaguebringer, you have to make sure you have a high uptime on your enemies. If you're seeing that you fight against a lot of targets that can easily kite you or run away from you, and you don't have a lot of uptime on them, it might be worth going to Clawing Shadows, which turns your Curd Strike into a shadow ability and also a ranged ability. And because of your mastery, this is immediately a buff, a direct damage buff for this ability. With Clawing Shadows, when you cast Defile or Death and Decay, and while you stand in it, and even though if your enemies are away but have some festering wounds on them, you can AoE them down from range. Really nice with Clawing Shadows. But overall, if you can keep up with your targets with a lot of uptime, go with Plaguebringer. It does eventually more damage. If you can't keep the uptime on it, you could switch to Clawing Shadows. We go down and improve Death Call. It hits a bit harder and seeks out one additional target, which is nice in AoE situations. Calls Devastations and so dot on them. Army of the Dead you want to go for. You want to go with Army of the Damned. Super Stain is also a really nice one to go. This is also an absolute must to go for, because it adds a few things to you. It will make sure that your Variant Plague also applies Frost Fever and Blood Plague at 80% effectiveness. That 80% means the damage from those diseases by 80%, as well as any runic power gained from Frost Fever, and also health gain from Blood Plague. You'll get it back 80% of effectiveness. It overall adds a solid amount of damage, runic power generation, and a small part of healing. So Super Saiyan is really good and works in particularly well with morbidity, which in this time we take 2 points into it. So morbidity eventually, for example, if you take also Unholy Blight, which is also another disease. This one gives 3 diseases, this one gives another disease. So in total maximum when you burst, you can have 4 diseases on players. And that will make sure that they'll take 8% increased damage. Really nice buff. Then here on the left, there are also a few things we want to go for. Unholy Blight is nice because when you press it, it will apply all your diseases to every enemy that comes near it. And it also adds Unholy Blight, another extra disease, which does quite a substantial amount of damage. The file is a nice one, and it's pretty easy because it reduces the cooldown. Normally Death and DK has a longer cooldown. While having Death's Echo, you'll get another charge, so you have 2 charges. And the great thing about this is when enemies are standing in it, it will grow in size and it will grow in damage. And also it will give you another effect that it increases mastery. So when you have a Defile, it will also cleave enemies that are standing in it. Or if you have the Clawing Shadow builds that are, if you're standing in a Defile and they have wounds up, you can cleave them down AoE from afar. So every time an enemy stands in the circle of Defile for every second, as well as granting a stacking mastery buff. The buff gives 1% mastery per stack. To a maximum of 8, we can have 8% increased mastery. Every time the file deals damage, it increases in size, and also the damage increased by 6% per second that enemies are standing in it. But the file is a really nice one to buff up your mastery, and mastery of course increases your shadow damage. And then you have 2 charges. You can really have a pretty long period of time in a match in PvP that you'll have 8% increased mastery from the file. It is really nice, and also when you combine it, of course, what we did before, with Grip of the Dead, all the enemies in there are also slowed. When you grab people as well in the Defile, they're also slowed. They have a chance to also get some extra festering wounds on them, which come from Pestilence or Death and DK. Also the Defile has a 10% chance to apply festering wound to the enemy each time it deals damage. Really nice. With this burst you can grab people to them, put down a Defile. If you're lucky, they can have festering wounds on them. You'll get increased mastery and you get the cleaving strikes. So if you, for example, have 3 enemies near you and all 3 of them will get a festering wound from your Defile after you grab them into that with Abomination Limb. If you then Curd Strike or Clawing Shadows, all 3 of those wounds will burst. And when they burst, they will deal direct damage, give you runic power back, and they'll cleave as well to the altars when they are burst. So it's really nice to cleave people hard AoE as Unholy Death Knight. Furthermore, you also want to take Bursting Swords. It's what I mentioned before, like every festering wound deals an X amount of extra damage, 20%. Deals shadow damage to all nearby enemies and deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. So this is really nice. It turns into a heavier single target burst and also into a pretty substantial AoE burst if you pop those wounds when people are standing close to them. Death Rod is a really nice one, so again, people will take increased damage. Fester Might will make sure that you'll get increased strength for 20 seconds and it stacks up. If you get a new Fester Might or proc or whatever, it will not refresh the duration. So when you burst, you want to burst when you have enough time left on this 20-second burst. So you don't want to burst when you only have like 5 seconds left on faster might, when you're at 15 seconds of the buff from the 20. Then you have to be patient, wait for the next cycle of faster might to burst. Unholy Assault, it strikes your target, dealing moderate damage and applies 4 festering wounds to your enemy. Also grants 20% increased damage buff to yourself. It's excellent also to combine it with Apocalypse. I don't know why, but oddly, when you press Unholy Assault, the 20% increased damage, it will also be applied to that Unholy Assault itself. It's pretty weird, but it is what it is. I'm not complaining. This is, in my opinion, the best build for Season 4. I've tested it out. It's absolutely pretty disgusting what you can do with it, to be honest. Necrotic Wounds is always a PvP talent you never want to swap out. But this one works really well when you're fighting against healers. When you burst so much festering wounds on an enemy, for example, when you apply Unholy Assault and then you burst those 4 with Apocalypse, they'll have a really hard time healing through it, because of course they'll get that healing reduction debuff on them. Really tricky sometimes for healers to heal them out of that situation. Doom Burst is also an absolute must. Make sure that Sudden Doom also causes your next death goal to burst up to 2 festering wounds and reduce the target's movement speed by 45% per burst, last 3 seconds. Always make sure when you have a target to have 2 festering wounds on them, so whenever you get a proc of Doom Burst, you can pop those 2 festering wounds. They'll be slowed down by 90% for 3 seconds, so massive slow. You'll pop those festering wounds, and of course with bursting, they'll deal increased damage. Really nice. This one, the third one, is optional. Strangulate is really good when you are in a matchup where you have some casters. When you get a healer low and when you can interrupt them, and they can't cast a spell for I think 3 seconds. Yeah, 3 seconds. After 3 seconds they could heal them again, but you can then after that silence them and they can still not cast anything. And I found a lot of success with doing that tactic, and I can just execute healers with it. It's absolutely disgusting. But when you're not facing a lot of healers or casters in general, this one you can swap out for something else. Necromancer's Bargain is also very powerful. It's like the cooldown of your Apocalypse reduced by 15 seconds. And your Apocalypse then don't summon any ghouls anymore from armies that you would normally get. But then applies Crypt Fever. Deals up to 8% of the target's maximum health in shadow damage over 4 seconds. Healing spells cast on the target will refresh the duration of Crypt Fever. So if you fight a healer, can also be nice. It does a lot of damage. You heal themselves, they'll take 8% of their health again. Shadow damage. This one also can be really good. And in general, this one is good also against melees, because it just hits so hard. And of course, it also spawns on Mages of the Dead, which deals a lot of damage too, because they hurl frost bolts or shadow bolts. And of course, Mages of the Dead, when you have the tier set, increases your damage as well. So really nice. Another thing you can do if you're in a matchup where you face against a lot of people that do physical damage, because physical damage is kind of like the bane of the existence for Unholy Death Knights. We are pretty weak against physical damage. We'll do fine against magical damage, pretty good against that. But physical damage is our nemesis. We're pretty weak against that. This one makes sure that whenever you death strike, it reduces the amount of physical damage taken by 20% for 3 seconds after you press death strike. Makes you a lot more tankier towards those pesky warriors. But then still, warriors probably we can never win from. You know who you can fight and which fight you should just abandon. Tankier against, for example, Beastmaster Hunter, Marship Hunters, in general class that do physical damage. So this last one is yeah, kind of like what you're facing against. Strangulate for casters. Blood Force when you're facing against a lot of physical targets. You have a kind of a balanced game. You can go for Necromancer's Bargain to increase your damage output and gives you a bit of execute power as well, because Apocalypse hit really hard. But that's it for the build, guys. I'm pretty sure, like if you go into the arenas or Battlegrounds, I'm pretty sure you'll have success with this build. So yeah, try it out, guys. Let me know in the comments like how you did with this build. I'm very curious, and yeah, I would love to see how you did. So this was the talents, and I think next we'll go to the stat priority. Let's go. Stat priority for Unholy Death Knights is pretty easily, I would say. The first thing you want to go for is probably strength. Strength is a really important stat for Unholy Death Knights. It just increases your overall damage. After strength, you want to stack versatility. Versatility in PvP is very nice because you'll do more damage, but it also reduces the damage you take from enemy older players. After versatility, you want to go for mastery or haste. Why do I say or haste? In my opinion, mastery and versatility, you have to balance it out on Unholy Death Knights, and I'll explain you why as well. Because mastery and haste, they actually synchronize with each other pretty well, I would say. Mastery increases your shadow damage and the damage of your minion. Of course, that's nice to have. While haste reduces the global cooldown, gives you resource generation, and increases the rate at which you and your minions attack. Either of these stats make the other one more valuable, meaning you should aim for a balance of both. Having a balance of both, you'll have a great time. It will smoothen out your rotation, your playstyle, and also ramps up your damage. After you have high mastery and haste, when you balance them out, the last thing you should go for is critical strike. Critical strike is I think it's not a bad stat as well, but it's the least favorable for Unholy Death Knights for the stat priority. So quick summary, stat priority for Unholy Death Knights: strength, versatility, and then mastery and haste you have to balance, and as last, critical strike. So I think we can go for the normal rotation for Unholy Death Knights, guy. So I'll see you there. Alright, Deathlords, before we go into the normal rotation, I would really appreciate it if you maybe leave a like on this video. It kind of shows if I'm doing an okay job, and it's free, right, and takes only a few seconds. So make sure to leave a like down below. Maybe after this video, check out my YouTube channel as well, YouTube at Commanduck, and make some PvP edited videos, and some other PvP guides, and some general tutorials about World of Warcraft. If you like what you see, consider subscribing. I'm also totally free. It would massively help me out as a small content creator, and I would really appreciate it. So thanks for doing it. Let's get back to the video, guys. It's time to talk about the normal rotation for Unholy Death Knights. But don't be scared. People say it's difficult. It's actually not. It's pretty easily. The normal rotation I can explain as follows. In general, you want to maintain your change of eyes on any target to hinder their movement, so you can have a higher uptime, and they have a harder time getting away from you. Be annoying. Use change of eyes. Of course, use Outbreak to maintain your Virulent Plague at all time. It does a lot of damage for Unholy Death Knight, so you have to keep track of those diseases to keep them up at all times. Use Festering Strike to generate and refresh Festering Wounds. But be careful. It is important to note that there can only be 6 stacks of Festering Wounds on a target at one time. Once you're at 4 or 5 wounds, you should not waste additional runes on Festering Strikes, because they can also apply 3 Festering Wounds on the target, and you would overcap and you'll lose some value. After that, you can use Scourge Strike or Clawing Shadows, depending on which one you choose, to spend wounds, to burst them. Whenever you have high amounts of runic power, you can use Death Coil. Or if you get a proc of Sudden Doom, then you can also use Death Coil immediately, because Death Coil does a lot of damage. Use Death Strike if you're about to cap on runic power and you're being attacked, because that's your major defensive heal. That's the normal rotation. I'll leave it down into the description for you guys as well, so you can read it at your own pace after watching this video. And I think we can go to a target dummy, and I'll just show you quickly how it works. Let's go. Okay, there we go. We're gonna do Change of Eyes. There we go. Outbreak for diseases. Festering Strike, and let's burst them with Scourge Strike. Scourge Strike. We have some runic power. Use Death Coil. Scourge Strike. Death Coil. Scourge Strike, Death Coil, Scourge Strike, Death Coil. Reapply with Festering Wounds, so we get Festering Wounds up. Scourge Strike, Scourge Strike. We can heal ourselves up. Death Strike. There we go. That's how we heal ourselves up. And that's how you go. Festering Strike again. Hey, we got the Doom proc burst. There we go. Reapply Disease with Outbreak. That's how in general you do the normal rotation, guys. It's pretty easy as Unholy Death Knight. It's absolutely crazy what you can do with it. And yeah, pretty simple, I would say. That's the normal rotation. Yeah, let's go to the burst rotation. I'll see you there. Now that you've seen the normal rotation and how to do it, it's really important to teach you how to do the burst rotation as Unholy Death Knight. No, it's not that scary, not that complicated. There are a few things you need to do, but I'll just tell you and I'll show you later. First, before you start the fight, roughly 4 seconds before you want to start the fight or the pool, you want to cast Army of the Death, because it takes roughly 4 seconds for those ghouls to be active after you press the ability. Then when you are running in, you want to cast Unholy Blight. Then it makes sure, like whenever you're running in, you're spreading all your disease to people. You can get the increased damage again for morbidity. After Unholy Blight, you want to cast Abomination Limp to make sure you grab people towards your location for an AoE setup, AoE burst setup. Then you want to cast Death and Decay or Defile. In our case, Defile, because that's the talent we chose. So that makes sure people you grab will massively slow by 90%. You'll have a 10% chance per tick of damage of Defile that they'll get a Festering Wound on them. And it just increases also your haste when you're standing in your Defile. And it also increases your mastery by maximum 80% when you're standing your defile as well. To just increase your damage. After the defile, you want to cast Dark Transformation to transform your ghoul into a powerful monstrosity that will deal increased damage, and then also some of his ability will be kind of morphed, so he can also AoE targets as well with his attacks. After the Dark Transformation, you want to cast Unholy Assault. Unholy Assault is really nice because it just increases the damage you do to your target by 20%, and it also will apply 4 festering wounds on your current target. And on those 4 festering wounds from Unholy Assault, you want to spend those immediately by casting Apocalypse. Apocalypse again spawns minions from your Army of the Dead, also spawns a Mages of the Dead, because the talent we took. There's a lot of damage, and yeah, people are suffering, absolutely suffering. After the Apocalypse, you want to proceed with your normal rotation, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, what we do now, Dirk? Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go to a target dummy. I'll see you there. So here we go, guys. Army of the Dead. There we go. Unholy Blight. A-Bomb Limb. Defile. Dark Transformation. Unholy Assault. Apocalypse. Doom Burst proc. Let's spend it. And let's just go to a normal rotation. Popping Festering Wounds. Managing our Runic Power. Spending it with Death Calls. We can heal up if we want. There we go. Death Strike. It's pretty simple, guys, how to do the burst rotation, as you can see right there. And that's, guys, how you do the burst rotation as Unholy Death Knight. As you can see there, it's not that hard to do. It's pretty easy to follow along. I'll leave the burst rotation also down in the description, so you can just read it. After watching this video. Pretty easy, I would say. And yeah, Unholy Death Knight is a lot of fun, guys. A lot of fun. I hope this video was useful to you and that you'll have some fun in PvP, whether it be Battlegrounds, Battleground Blitz, or Arena Fight. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have success. Believe in yourself, and you can do it. Unholy Death Knight is a lot of fun, and you'll see if you play it in PvP, either in arenas or Battlegrounds, you'll see why. But hey, while you're at it, maybe leave a like down for me there too. Would massively help me out as a small content creator, and yeah, shows your appreciation to this content. And maybe check out my YouTube channel, YouTube at Commander. I'll make some edited videos and some other guides. If you see what you like, consider subscribing. That will massively help me out to make content for you. So please subscribe, and I hope you have fun. Let me know in the comments what you think about this guide as well. And how you did maybe in PvP, let me know. I would love to hear from you. But that was it, guys. This was Commander, and I'll see you in the next battle. Salute!